In the small village of Pinewood, nestled between dense forests and mist-shrouded hills, the summer of 1994 arrived sultry and silent. The cicadas sang incessantly, the asphalt melted in the sun, and the air seemed heavy on the aging wooden houses. It was the kind of summer that seemed eternal, where time stood still, and each afternoon smelled of warm grass and stagnant lakes. It was in this setting that three inseparable friends, Claire Donovan, Sarah Mitchell, and Emily Ross, decided to escape the heat by going swimming in the Lago Pinewood, an ancient reservoir hidden behind the hills, known only to locals. Claire, 17, was the most determined. The daughter of a seamstress and an absent truck driver, she had the firm gaze and courage of someone who grew up taking life into her own hands. Sarah, also 17, was the opposite, studious, calm, and always with a biology textbook in her backpack. She dreamed of becoming a doctor and leaving Pinewood to study in Louisville. Emily, the youngest, was 16. She was sweet, shy, and loved to sing at Sunday Mass. Her voice was so beautiful that the entire school would stop when she performed at the local fairs. That Friday, July 15, 1994, the three agreed to meet in the main square at noon. The thermometer read 37 degrees. The shadows of the trees were short, and the sound of church bells echoed through the deserted streets. Claire wore a light blue dress sewn by her mother. Sarah wore a green skirt and white blouse. Emily wore a yellow outfit that highlighted her golden skin. Each carried a small backpack, towels, swimsuits, and food. "Did you bring the sandwiches?" Claire asked, adjusting her shoulder strap. "My mom made chicken pot pies and lemonade," Emily replied, smiling. Sarah adjusted her glasses. "I just can't come back late. My parents are closing the pharmacy at 6. "Relax. We'll be back sooner," Claire said. "The lake is nearby, an hour of swimming and we're done." The path to the lake followed an old hunter's trail. It passed cornfields, woods, and barbed wire fences covered in ivy. The three of them knew this route by heart. It was their childhood refuge, the place where they daydreamed about the future. During the walk, they laughed, sang, and talked about what they would do in 10 years. "In 10 years, you'll be in a hospital in New York, Sarah," Emily said. "And you, Claire, will have your own clothing store," he added. "And you'll be singing on stage," Claire replied. "We promise to come back here every summer, no matter what?" Sarah asked, raising her hand. The three intertwined their fingers and promised. The sun was already beginning to set when they reached the lake. The water glistened in the golden afternoon light. It was a secluded spot, surrounded by towering trees and willows overhanging the shore. They took off their shoes, ran to the water, and dove in. Their laughter echoed through the woods. For a while, it seemed like nothing could happen. Just the sound of the water, the smell of pine, and the feeling of freedom. After swimming and eating, they sat on a rock in the shade. That's when Sarah heard something. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. A sound of footsteps and male voices came from the woods. Claire frowned. "Must be a hunter," she said, trying to sound calm. But her tone was tense. The voices were approaching, 3 men, strangers, in dirty work clothes, and with a manner that chilled the girls. Blood. "Good afternoon, young ladies," said the tallest one, with a long scar on his cheek. "Alone here?" Claire stood up slowly. "We were just leaving." "No need to rush," replied another, laughing. The air grew heavy. Emily squeezed Claire's hand. Sarah tried to breathe deeply. "Please let us pass," Claire asked firmly. The scarred man smiled. "You're not going anywhere." And what happened next? No one in Pinewood ever forgot. When the voices came from behind the willows, Claire was already on his feet. The scarred man maintained the short smile of someone gauging distance and fear. Behind him, a short, stocky man held a dented thermos. The third, thin, with small eyes, scanned the surroundings as if cataloging escape routes. "We don't want confusion," Claire said. "Let's just get our things." "Who said there is confusion?" "The lake belongs to everyone," replied the robust man, surrounding them without touching. Emily leaned against Claire's back. Sarah grabbed her backpack. The skinny guy pointed his chin toward the trail. "Truck's right there." It all happened too quickly. The scarred man blocked the way. The stocky man grabbed Sarah's backpack. The thin, silent man gathered up the towels and threw them over his shoulder. Going. The white pickup truck, with no visible license plates, was hidden under branches and a tarp. The smell of gasoline and grease burned his nose. The burly man opened the back door. "Get in," Emily cried soundlessly. Sarah tried to argue. "My parents—" "Nobody wants to hear a story," cut off the one with the scar. The vehicle took off, raising dust, leaving behind the glitter of the lake. The path continued for dirt roads that the three of them didn't recognize, skirting fences, descending ravines, climbing hills where the engine roared like a wounded animal. The sun was eating away at the horizon when they stopped at a hidden yard through tall pine trees, where there was improvised shed of wood and sheet metal. Around it, metal drums, hoses, pieces of pipes, raw chemistry of those who create haste and money in the middle of nowhere. They were pushed into a small room, windowless, with 3 cots and a bucket in a corner. The door closed from the outside with the gravity of a sentence. On the first night, nobody slept. Footsteps came and went. Voices argued nearby. Sounds of metal, fire, pressure. Sarah trembled. Emily breathed shallowly. Claire kept her fists clenched, as if her body were remembering something her mind couldn't quite plan. In the morning, the thin man with the small eyes came in with cold tortillas, that's what it looked like, and water in plastic bottles. He left everything on a box and left without saying anything. "Do you have a name?" Claire ventured when he returned in the afternoon. He hesitated, not looking into her eyes. "Nobody here has." Hours turned into days. The heat trapped in that wooden box made the sweat stick to my skin. The sweat from the scar came in frequently. When it did, medium distances, the stout one liked to knock loudly on the door when he left, just to scare people. The thin one, when he brought food, lowered his eyes. And that was enough for Claire to test something. On a trip to the bathroom outside, managed to hide a pebble sob a bar a due short. On the third night, the 3 heard outside. "Tomorrow ends, too much risk." Silence. A chill ran through the room, as if the entire air had grown heavier. Claire waited for the quieter shift, when all he could hear was the dripping outside and a distant radio. He took the stone out of the lining of his shorts. He began to loosen a board from the back wall, where the wood was damp and soft. It took hours. With each slap, Emily held her breath. Sarah kept watch by the crack in the door. When he opened a gap, just enough, Claire whispered, "Shot. People are separated. Each one runs in a different direction. At least, O needs to get out alive and warn." Emily cried silently, shaking her head. Sarah, pale, nodded slowly. "I don't want to leave you," Emily said. "It's not letting go. It's seek help," Claire replied, firm and gentle at the same time. They went out to the thick dawn. The yard looked like a darkened stage, with shadows of men in the distance and a small bonfire. Claire pointed with her hand in directions, left, forward, right. Now. The first minute was just the sound of leaves. Then, shouting, "They're gone! Look for it!" Flashlights slicing through the darkness. Engines revving. The ground opening up into roots and rocks. Emily ran as never before. His heart was pounding not in his chest, but in his ears. Branches tore at his arm. The oxygen burned. He ran until he lost track of time. When it finally stopped, hidden behind rocks, didn't hear anything else. No voices, no engines, just the blood itself. The night passed slowly. The next day was born pale. Emily followed the path of distant noise of a road. She arrived dirty, dehydrated, and staggering. A bus stopped. The driver, seeing the bloodied girl, opened the door without asking. Pinewood, end of the line. When Emily entered Pinewood, the alarm had already sounded. Claire and Sarah's families had missed their daughters the night before. The county sheriff had rounded up volunteers. Groups were combing the lakeshore. The church was open. No small health center. Dr. Henderson examined Emily. Dehydration, scratches, exhaustion. Other than that, physically he's fine. Inside, nothing was right. When asked, "Where are Claire and Sarah?" Emily didn't speak. The sound seemed trapped in a basement inside her. The mother, Donna Ross, held her hands. "Daughter, please." Emily looked, huge, frightened eyes, and no word skirt. People came from the state capitol, a psychology team from the Lexington Hospital. They tried playful techniques, dolls, drawing. When they got close to the subject, Emily squeezed his eyes shut, like someone who turns off lights to protect themselves. The searches are expanded. Small planes swept through the forest, sniffer dogs, hunters familiar with the region. But the interior had infinite hiding places, valleys, grottos, old warehouses, abandoned mines. Without Emily speaking, the case began to cool. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Summer gave way to a brown autumn, and then to the winter that turns Pinewood into a still picture. Time didn't bring any clues. Emily was diagnosed with traumatic selective mutism. You knew read, write, eat, work, but when the subject touched on trauma, his mind lowered a steel door. The following year, Donna cut back on her work to spend time with her daughter. Emily create rigid routines, help at Mr. Forrest's bakery, cob, sweep the porch, go to church, always come back by the same steps. The people got used to the girl who doesn't speak, and, in time, even the children learned, respect the silence. It is a form of kindness. 1998 came and went. 1999, the same. The case turned file at the county table. The families raised 2 discreet memorials in the square. Photos, flowers, dates. The girls' names engraved in metal that it didn't rust on the outside. Inside, everything oxidized. In 2004, an old sedan parked in front of the bakery. He got out Michael Sanderson, former Nashville police officer, now a private investigator specializing in cold cases. It brought tiredness to the shoulders and patience in his pockets. He didn't press Emily. He turned daily customer from the bakery, talking to Donna, to Mr. Cobb, to whoever was in line. In the 3rd week, opened a topographic map on the counter. He pretended to write it down trail routes. Emily, who was kneading dough in the background, stopped. He came to the counter slowly. His trembling finger swept across the map and stopped at a point of the hills to the north. Michael registered the place. The next day, I brought a better map. Emily pointed again, more specifically, Willow Run Creek. With a small, discreet team, Michael searched the area. He found rotten remains, buried wooden base, corroded drums, old hoses, dried chemical stains on the ground. The plant of improvised shed. A small room with marks on the wall, as if someone had tried widen a gap. Buried shallowly, they found a golden earring that Nora Donovan, Claire's mother, recognized immediately. At another point, broken lenses that the Mitchells, Sarah's parents, swore was their daughter's. No body. The news shook Pinewood. Emily Chorreau high for the first time in a decade. Sobs that came from an ancient place. The next day, he showed up at the bakery with Epipur, drew 3 figures running in different directions between trees, an arrow to the right, EU. In the other 2, question marks. Michael understood, separated. She didn't see what happened to the friends. Months of work followed. Michael found burnt papers in half, abbreviated names, deliveries with Regent acronyms. Nothing that closed the case. Probable theory: Claire and Sarah were recaptured and transferred. It was common, he explained. Move prisoners between dots to confuse searches. With no new leads, the effort cooled off in 2006. Michael stayed and came back several times. Each time he returned, he sat in the bakery, opened the map. Emily, he was breathing. Better. Validating the truth is sometimes what opens the first doors of healing. The years passed. 2015 brought the doctor. Anna Moralesto replaced the aging Dr. Henderson, a trauma specialist. He proposed a simple and profound treatment. Don't chase memories, but give voice to the present. They started with breathing, then buzzing, after syllables. In 2018, in the backyard, Emily stuck her hand in a thorn and shouted, "Ouch." The first word in 25 years. The mother froze. Emily did too. The doctor smiled. It's okay to speak. Came top pandemic. Donna fell ill. Emily, for the first time, called to Doctor. Anna, doctor, my mother is very ill. It was the first sentences outside the office. After that, talk didn't stop, but followed with limits. About that night, the silence was still wall. In 2023, Emily asked to return to the lake. It was her mother, Dr. Anna, and the pastor Miguel. The place was the same. Time is generous with landscapes. Emily touched the water. Here we were happy. And, in a whisper, Claire. Sarah, it was at first time who said the names out loud in 30 years. In 2024, he appeared Joaquin Morales, last name Joe, a former construction worker who in the 1990s was unknowingly hired to raise temporary warehouses in the hills. Now remorseful, he told state police he saw girls in captivity and heard orders from a man they called Scar. He said that when it went bad, they changed the operation further south, towards the border with Tennessee. With Anna by her side, Emily accepted speak formally with researchers. He described theirs, a pickup truck, the position of the room, and the chemical smell. He confirmed that he heard men talking about change everything. When they asked about leak and what happened to Claire and Sarah, the voice deleted, "I am unable." No one insisted. Still, it was enough to reopen the case and direct searches to abandoned farms in the southern counties. The reopening brought media. Pinewood turned TV scenario for 2 weeks. Emily took cover. "I don't want to be famous for the worst day of my life," he told Dr. Anna. Families from other places began to write letters. "Knowing you survived gives me hope." Emily responded with actions. In 2025, announced a book, Voices of the Lake, not about the violence itself, but about friendship, loss, and healing. "I would donate all the income to families of missing persons." As I wrote with the silent help of an editor, good memories came flooding back. The school picnics, the first song she sang with Sarah laughing in embarrassment, the crooked seam Claire turned into a beautiful dress for the church fair. Blame also emerged for having survived. In the pages, she rewrote the verdict. "I lived to tell the tale, so that they were not forgotten." At the end of 2025, a federal investigator called "Excavations in a Abandoned Ranch Discovered Clandestine Burials. Remains off of young women of that time. They would need DNA off relatives." Claire's uncle, Anthony, and Sarah's sister, Megan, provided samples. Emily lived the longer weeks since he recovered his voice, a duel between hope and fear. In December, the agent brought the news personally to the parish house. 2 sets corresponded to Claire Donovan and Sarah Mitchell. The silence was a full river. Anthony cried quietly. Megan put her hands to her face. Emily stood still, trying to learn the idea of now I be. "Did they suffer?" Emily asked, her voice a thread. The researcher chose the compassion. "The evidence does not indicate prolonged suffering. It was all that was possible and necessary in that room. The procedures have begun for bring them home," Pinewood moved as a single body. The teacher, Evelyn, already elderly, took care of the flowers. The carpenter Ramon made the coffins free of charge. Emily participated in everything, indifferent silence. Not the defense, but the preparation. 3 nights before the funeral, he asked to stay alone with the coffins. He spoke to them as if sitting in the same school bench. "Claire, you would have scolded me for being so silent. You always said, important things are said. You were right. Sarah, you would have a scientific explanation for everything. You would say my survival was statistical, not fate. I need to believe it was because a reason." Then he stopped, took a breath, and finally said whole truth to someone who could listen without responding. "When we run, I heard you scream my name. I wanted to go back. Ahoo. But if I went back, we would die at 3. I ran to tell him, and when I arrived, I couldn't speak. The old guilt came out like old wind of a closed house. It didn't cure everything, but vacated space." In January 15th, 2026, Pinewood dressed in black. The community hall was packed. Emily took the pulpit with a text she called cards. "Claire Donovan, I had plans. I was going to open a studio. I was going to dress brides and prove that independence can also be sown. Sarah Mitchell, I was going to be a doctor. I was going to go back to Pinewood to take care of ours. Dreams don't die with those who dream them. Change address. Since I came back, I try to live in a way that honor what they would have done." Then, at the cemetery, 2 trees, one Willoughby Claire, by the branches that welcome, and a rosewood by Sarah, by the flowers that announce that there is always another spring. In the following months, Emily became active defender of families of the missing. "I understand the silence," he said, "and I understand the time to break it." In March 2026, spoke in a national conference about disappearances, not about crime, but about treatment. She received a standing ovation. She returned to Pinewood a different person. It wasn't just where everything broke down, it was where it built itself. With the proceeds from the book, he opened the Voices of the Lake Foundation, offering free therapy in rural communities. In July 2026, on the 33rd anniversary of her trip to the lake, Emily returned to Lago Pinewood, now with families served, school children, neighbors. They planted a gardena at the water's edge. Emily touched the clean surface. "This lake was where we were last happy together, and where it started the road back of my voice. Claire and Sarah Hare not here as before, but live in what I do, in who I help, in every story told with respect." The wind stirred the willows. First time in 33 years, Emily heard only the sound of the lake, no screams lost in time. Peace is not forgetting. It is remember without leaving.